They thought the past was buried. They thought ghosts only haunted graveyards, not glowing screens. But in Lagos, where the hum of old internet cafes still lingers like faint echoes of another time, 4 teenagers discover that some connections never die. When David, Amara, Tobi, and Prosper step into the abandoned BuzzNet Café, they expect dust, broken chairs, and silence. Instead, they find computers that power themselves on, usernames of the dead glowing back at them, and messages typed by hands that no longer exist. What begins as a dare quickly becomes a nightmare. Because in this cafe, the ghosts don't linger in shadows. They live in the cold. And tonight, they want to play. Digital Ghost. The first time the lights flickered on inside BuzzNet Café, David thought it was just a power grid being its usual mess. But then the neon sign above the doorway, "Dead for years," buzzed faintly to life, casting a sickly green glow onto the dusty street.
This place hasn't had lights since Jonathan was still president,
David muttered, squinting up at the cracked sign. Beside him, Tobi adjusted his glasses and frowned.
Don't tell me you're scared already.
David shot him a look.
Me? Scared? A bag. It's just creepy.
Amara, her phone already raised in selfie mode, spun around dramatically.
This is the vibe. Haunted Internet Cafe Challenge, Part 1.
She grinned at her reflection on the cracked glass door, her braids catching the dim light. Prosper stood a few feet back, hands shoved deep into his hoodie pocket, his eyes scanning the deserted street.
We shouldn't be here. People say.
People say what?
David cut in, smirking.
That ghosts are waiting inside with Yahoo laptops.
No.
Prosper replied flatly.
That the people who came here last never came out the same.
The words hung in the humid night air. The cafe door creaked open with a push, and stale air rolled out, smelling of dust, old wires, and something metallic, like rust or blood. Inside, rows of computers sat like corpses in coffins, black screens staring back. Chairs were overturned. Posters advertising Nigerian Naira 100 per hour surfing peeled from the walls.
See retro vibes.
Amara whispered, sweeping her camera phone across the dark interior. But then... click. One computer in the far corner lit up, the monitor buzzing to life. The 4 teens froze. Another monitor blinked on. Then another. Within seconds, the entire cafe was alive, humming, glowing, screens casting a bluish glow across the room. David's mouth went dry.
No one touched anything.
Tobi, curiosity outweighing fear, stepped forward. He squinted at the nearest monitor. The login screen displayed a username list. He recognized one instantly. Chica for life. His stomach dropped.
That's impossible.
Tobi whispered.
Chica died 3 years ago. Car accident.
Amara leaned closer, eyes wide.
Wait, are you serious?
Prosper's voice was low.
Check the others.
They did. Screen after screen carried usernames of people long gone: Scully Boy, Ada Princess 99, Amika the Great. All names tied to real tragedies the town still whispered about. David forced a laugh. Probably some sick prank. But then, on the central monitor, a cursor appeared. It blinked, then began to type. We are still here. All 4 stumbled back. The cursor moved again. Do you want to play? The mystery deepens. They bolted out into the night. For hours, none of them said a word. But by morning, David was restless. He found himself back outside BuzzNet that evening, kicking at the gravel. He told himself he just wanted to prove it was nothing. But the others showed up too, one by one. Tobi with his backpack and flash drive, Amara with her ring light strapped to her phone, Prosper trailing reluctantly. Inside, the cafe waited. Dead silent, until they stepped in. Then the computers lit up again.
Okay.
Tobi said, trying to sound calm.
It's a system. Someone must still be running a server.
David sat at a terminal, flexing his fingers.
Only one way to find out.
He hit enter. The screen logged in without a password. A chat room appeared, text scrolling up the page. Welcome back. David typed, "Who are you?" The reply was instant. "We are you. We are everyone." Amara gasped and held up her phone to film. But her battery, which had been at 89%, dropped to 7% in seconds. The phone went black.
What the?
She shook it furiously.
This thing just sucked my battery dry.
Prosper's eyes narrowed.
Leave it. Don't type again.
But David was already typing. "If you're real, prove it." The screen flickered. Then new messages appeared, fast, like multiple users talking at once. "David, remember the treehouse behind your grandfather's house?" "Tobi, your mother still hides money in the yellow freezer container." "Amara, stop deleting drafts. We've seen them." "Prosper, don't run. You can't run." The four stared at each other in horror.
Nope.
Prosper stood, backing away.
This is witchcraft.
Tobi shook his head furiously.
No, it's data. Somehow, this system has access to things it shouldn't. Private things.
But then David blinked and realized he didn't know how long they'd been sitting there. His watch said 9:30 p.m. But when they stepped back outside, the streets were already empty, and the mosque down the road was calling for far prayers.
What? That's 5 in the morning.
David's voice cracked.
We were only in there for 1 hour.
But none of them remembered more than a handful of minutes. The next night, they swore they wouldn't return. But Amara uploaded a few seconds of glitching footage she'd managed to save. By midnight, it had nearly 50,000 views. Comments poured in. "No way this is real. BuzzNet Café challenge when? I swear I saw one of the usernames reply to me last week." By morning, kids in their school whispered about going to BuzzNet themselves. And that was when the draining began. The draining. David woke up with pounding headaches after school, unable to remember classes. He swore he'd only played with the chat room for a few minutes, but his teachers said he'd missed whole periods. Tobi once snapped awake at his desk with blood on his notebook, his nose still trickling. Amara found videos on her phone she didn't remember filming, long clips of her just staring into the camera, eyes glassy, mumbling. And Prosper had it worst. He blacked out in the middle of chemistry class. When they carried him to the sick bay, the school nurse showed them his palms. Both were covered in typed-out chat logs, as if printed onto his skin. Lines and lines of text. Words he'd never written.
Guys.
Prosper whispered later, voice trembling.
It's like they used me to chat. Like I wasn't even there.
That night, David returned alone, determined to confront whatever was inside BuzzNet. The cafe greeted him with its usual glow, screens humming softly. One computer blinked. "Welcome back, David. Tired yet?" His fingers trembled as he typed. "What do you want from us?" The answer chilled him. "We feed. Screen time is life. Attention is blood." The lights flickered. "The longer you stay, the less you remain." David staggered back from the monitor, bile rising in his throat. Suddenly, it made sense. The fainting. The memory gaps. The vanishing hours. The cafe wasn't haunted by lost souls crying for help. It was feeding. And they were next on the menu. The haunting goes viral. The next day at school, Amara was buzzing with restless energy. She stayed up until 3 a.m., editing shaky clips of the cafe, the computers flickering alive, usernames crawling across the dusty screens. Prosper's panic face when the chat had typed "Next is you." She posted them on TikTok with the caption, "Abandoned cafe in town, haunted computers." #BuzzNet Challenge. #Digital Ghosts. By lunch, it had over 200,000 views. Comments exploded. "This is fake but kinda cool. Now I saw that username before, that dude died in 2007. At midnight I'm pulling up. Who's coming?"
Amara, delete it.
David said, snatching her phone.
You don't even understand what you've started.
But Amara only grinned, taking it back.
We were there, David. People need to see this. Maybe the ghosts just want clout.
Ghosts don't want clout.
Prosper muttered.
They want blood.
Hey Legend fam. If you're vibing with this story, don't just watch, own it. Smash that like button, share with your friends, and hit subscribe so you never miss the next juicy story.
By evening, kids from all over town were showing up outside BuzzNet. Bicycles lined the street. Motorbikes revved. Even older teens who usually laughed at ghost stories were there with ring lights and power banks. Everyone wanted their content. At exactly midnight, the cafe pulsed awake. Rows of monitors blazed like eyes opening in the dark. The heavy glass door slammed shut behind the crowd with a thunderous clang. Screams erupted. Phones lit up. But no one could leave. David's heart pounded as he and the others were swept inside with the mob. The screens flickered and chat rooms bloomed open, usernames rolling in faster than anyone could screenshot. Some kids laughed nervously, still convinced it was a prank, until they noticed the replies. Not bots. Not edits. Ghosts. Chat after chat filled with the same chilling rhythm. We see you. Still alive? Not for long. Your name is next. Amara's phone buzzed in her hand. She'd gone live on TikTok. Hundreds of viewers watched as usernames, those same date usernames, began appearing in her comment feed. Nice stream. Stay with us forever, Amara. Don't log off. Her smile faltered.
Guys, they're in my comments.
Suddenly one of the boys from school, Chuka, staggered. His phone clattered to the floor. His nose bled as if someone had punched him. His body twitched, and then, he collapsed. A hush swept the cafe. The only sound was the furious clacking of keyboards typing on their own. Welcome to the BuzzNet test. Prosper grabbed David's arm.
We have to get out. Now.
But the cafe wasn't letting anyone go. The air hummed, electric and suffocating. Screens began glitching, mirroring the teens' own faces back at them, but distorted. Stretched mouths. Empty sockets. Pixelated corpses. One screen showed David himself, sitting exactly where he was, but in the reflection, his body was slumped, lifeless.
Don't look.
Tobi hissed, dragging him away.
It feeds on attention.
Amara's hands shook as she tried to end her live stream, but the button wouldn't work. Her viewers spiked past 1 million. More usernames poured in, some repeating over and over, like a chant. Join. 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 The crowd panicked. Kids banged on the doors, clawed at windows, even tried smashing keyboards. But nothing budged. And then Prosper, stoic, skeptical Prosper, froze. His eyes rolled back, and his fingers began hammering at a keyboard.
Prosper?
David whispered. Lines of code appeared on the screen in front of him. He typed like a machine, fast and brutal, his knuckles scraping the keys raw. The words that appeared were his own. The living will be tested. Some will stay. Some will vanish. David grabbed him by the shoulders, shaking.
Prosper, wake up.
But Prosper's voice came out flat, cold, robotic.
They're building an army.
The words sent a chill straight through David. Behind them, another kid fainted. Another vanished completely, their phone clattering to the ground, still glowing with their username online. And the cafe fed. The brighter the screens glowed, the weaker the teens became. The final face-off. By 3 a.m., the survivors were slumped against overturned chairs, pale and trembling. The cafe didn't feel like a building anymore, it pulsed like a living organism, every buzzing monitor a heartbeat, every surge of light a breath. David pressed his hands to his knees, forcing himself upright. His knuckles were scraped raw, his shirt stained with sweat and dust.
We can't just sit here and wait to die.
His voice cracked, but the fire in his eyes held. Tobi's gaze darted toward the back. His lips quivered, but his words were steady.
The server. Everything has a source. If this cafe is alive, the brain is back there.
For a moment, none of them moved. The idea alone felt like peeling back the skin of something they weren't meant to see. But then, almost in unison, they dragged themselves to their feet. The path wasn't easy, screens convulsed violently as they passed, images glitching between screaming faces and static voids. Chairs rolled on their own, blocking the way. At least 6 unconscious bodies lay slumped on the floor, still breathing faintly but drained of hours, maybe days. Finally, they reached a warped door half hidden behind the counter. David yanked it open. A narrow staircase spiraled downward, lit by an unnatural glow. The deeper they descended, the hotter it became. The walls sweated, and the air buzzed thick with static, making every hair on their arms rise. Underground, they found it. The server room. Rows upon rows of ancient towers lined the walls, blinking red and green, their fans whirring like fevered breathing. Thick cables cord across the floor like veins, snaking toward a hulking central unit that pulsed with a faint white glow. On a mounted screen, files scrolled endlessly. Each file had a name, date of birth, date of death. Some included grainy photos. Some showed blunt words like cause, suicide. Deleted from record. Cause, accident. Rewritten. Cause, murder. Covered. The BuzzNet archive. Tobi's breath hitched. His hands hovered inches above the dusty keyboard.
It's all here. Every kid who disappeared. Every cover-up.
David's stomach knotted as he stared at the faces on the monitor. Teens who should have grown up, lived, loved. Instead, their last login pulse here, shackled forever.
This is why they're stuck.
He whispered.
This place is their tether. Their last scroll, their last chat. They never log out.
No.
Prosper's sweet voice cut through the hum. He leaned heavily against the wall, still pale from possession, sweat dripping down his temple.
Not a prison.
His eyes darkened.
A recruitment camp.
The screen flickered. New lines typed themselves without a hand on the keyboard. Immortality awaits. One of you will join tonight. The four froze. Amara's phone buzzed in her pocket. She pulled it out, and her eyes widened. Her TikTok was exploding. Thousands of comments poured in, usernames she didn't recognize. Except, some matched the names scrolling across the server screen. Voices leaped from her phone speakers, layered and overlapping. Stay with us. Be remembered. Go viral forever. Her lip quivered.
To never be forgotten, to live online forever, isn't that better than fading?
David's chest tightened. He reached for her arm.
Amara, no. That's what they want. That's their trap.
Her eyes shimmered with tears.
David, look at me. I already am online. That's all I have. Every smile, every joke, every piece of me, they only count if they're posted. Don't you get it?
Tobi slammed a key, the screen flashing.
We don't have time for speeches. If we pull the plug, we shut this whole thing before it spreads beyond town.
The server roared as though hearing him. Lights blazed, cables sparked, the hum deepening to a bone-shaking growl. Amara stepped closer to the central tower. Her reflection flickered in the glassy surface, not her tired, street face, but a glowing, flawless avatar. Perfect skin. Unfading smile. Thousands of hearts floated beside her reflection, as if she were live streaming to the world. Her breath caught. Stay, Amara, the voices crooned through the speakers, silky, seductive. Millions already watch you. Why stop at millions? Why not forever? Her hands trembled. Her heart pounded. David lunged forward, grabbing her shoulders.
Amara, fight it. Stay with us.
She smiled faintly, even as tears streaked down her cheeks.
Maybe this is who I was meant to be.
The server lights flared blinding white.
No.
Tobi shouted. He ripped a cable free with both hands. Sparks exploded. The server shrieked, a sound like glass shattering inside their skulls. David joined in, tearing another cable from the wall. Prosper, summoning the last of his strength, staggered forward and yanked the final one loose. The server screamed. Sparks rained down, the stench of burning plastic filling the room. The lights flickered violently, then died. Sudden silence. Upstairs, the cafe groaned, then went still. Screens shattered one by one, monitors cracking open like eggshells. The usernames, the avatars, the flashing chats, all gone in an instant. Amara collapsed, her phone clattering to the ground, screen black. David caught her in his arms, panic choking his throat.
Hey Legend fam! If you're vibing with this story, don't just watch, own it. Smash that like button, share with your friends, and hit subscribe so you never miss the next juicy story.
Amara, wake up. Please.
Her chest was still. Then, slowly, she gasped. Her body shuddered as air filled her lungs again. Her eyes fluttered open. Alive. Still here. Relief flooded David. He hugged her tight.
You're okay. You're with us.
But when she looked at him, his stomach dropped. Her pupils weren't the same. Deep inside, faint and glowing, a username lingered. The morning came with a brittle quiet. Police cars swarmed the cafe, but by noon, the news reports had already smoothed the truth into something palatable. Carbon monoxide poisoning. Tragic, but explainable. The bodies of the drained teens were carted away. The cafe was sealed off, boarded, and labeled as unsafe. But David knew better. That night, he sat on his bed, scrolling his phone, thumb moving out of habit more than interest. Sleep wouldn't come. His mind replayed the server's last words, "One of you will join tonight." His screen blinked. A notification. New friend request. David froze. The username pulsed at the top of the screen. Not random. Not harmless. It was one he recognized. A boy from his old school. Someone who died 2 years ago. The friend request glowed, waiting. Accept. The afterglow. Morning slid into the town like a reluctant guest. The first rays of sunlight filtered through hazy clouds, painting the roofs in pale gold. For the townspeople, it was just another day. But for David, Amara, Tobi, and Prosper, it was survival, a fragile, unsteady gift. The cafe was sealed off with yellow police tape. Officers moved in and out, their faces blank, their voices dismissive. "Gas leak," one of them muttered to the press. A tragic accident. No one spoke about the screams that had rattled the night, or the smell of burned wires that lingered long after the flames had died. The four friends stood across the street, their clothes still singed, their eyes red from smoke and tears. They should have felt relief, but instead, there was an emptiness that hummed in the air around them, like an unfinished note. Unsettling changes. The curse did not die in the fire. It shifted. Adapted. David was the first to notice. As he typed on his phone that morning, his words twisted into shapes he hadn't written. Simple messages autocorrected themselves into usernames he recognized from the cafe's glowing server list, names of the date. He would delete them, retype, and still the device betrayed him. Amara's change was stranger. Overnight, her social media had exploded with new followers. Hundreds of them. Each profile bore the same uncanny similarity, the hollow-eyed faces of the cafe's victims, staring from profile pictures like digital ghosts. She hadn't accepted friend requests, hadn't followed back, yet her numbers grew every hour. The notifications chimed endlessly, each ping a reminder that something had followed her home. Tobi's discovery chilled him most. Booting up his laptop, he expected the comfort of a blank desktop. Instead, lines of corrupted code scrolled across his screen unbidden. Directories duplicated themselves, hidden files blinked into existence and vanished. The more he searched, the clearer it became, the system had copied itself into his machine. BuzzNet had bled into his hardware, embedding its roots where fire couldn't touch it. Prosper, who had sworn never to go near the cafe again, began hearing things. Whenever Wi-Fi signals pulsed around him, at school, in restaurants, even passing neighbors' houses, faint whispers drifted to his ears. Not loud enough to make sense, but persistent, like half-heard conversations in a dream. He pressed his palms to his ears to shut them out, but the murmurs only grew stronger, weaving themselves into his heartbeat. Amara's struggle. The days blurred into something unrecognizable. Amara stopped sleeping. At first, she thought it was the adrenaline, the aftermath of terror. But it was more insidious than that. Whenever she looked at screens, her phone, her television, even digital billboards in town, her eyes glowed faintly, a shimmer just at the edge of human sight. David caught it once, reflected in a window, a thin halo of sickly blue light pulsing with each blink. Her hands moved without her. She scrolled endlessly, thumbing through feeds she didn't mean to open. Hours passed, lost in loops of content she didn't remember watching. Worse, she began posting videos of herself she had never recorded. Clips of her laughing at empty rooms. Of her crying in her sleep. Of her standing perfectly still in front of a mirror. Each video uploaded in high definition, perfectly cut, perfectly timed. And each one went viral overnight. She would wake to thousands of comments praising or mocking her, strangers dissecting her every move. She hadn't touched the upload button. The feed had possessed her. She was becoming an influencer for the date. David's resolve. David watched it all unfold with growing dread. The fire had not ended anything, it had only scattered the infection. Like sparks leaping from dying flames, the curse had spread into the wider internet, carried through Wi-Fi and fiber optic lines, replicated across the invisible web. BuzzNet wasn't gone. It was everywhere. Late one evening, he stood by his desk, staring at his phone buzzing with endless autocorrected names. He thought of the servers beneath the cafe, their blinking lights humming like a heartbeat. He thought of the figures trapped inside, feeding, waiting. He knew then what had happened. When they destroyed the cafe, they hadn't killed the net. They had unleashed it. The final twist. It was near midnight when the call came. David's phone vibrated against the desk, the screen glowing with an unknown number. His breath caught in his throat. He shouldn't answer. Every instinct screamed at him to ignore it. But his thumb betrayed him, sliding across the glass. The call connected. Static filled the screen, lines of glitch and distortion. Slowly, an image resolved, a face. His face. David staggered back, knocking over a chair. The copy on the screen smiled with perfect ease, a smile David hadn't worn in months.
You pulled the plug.
The double whispered, its voice layered with echoes.
But you uploaded us instead.
Its smile widened until the pixels tore, splitting into a dozen grins stacked atop each other. The call ended abruptly, the screen black. The ghost net spreading. Heart pounding, David rushed to the window. Outside, the town lay quiet, bathed in the soft glow of streetlights. But then he saw it. In homes across the street, routers flickered unnaturally, their lights pulsing like veins pumping blood. In schools, in offices, in bedrooms, everywhere, servers lit up in tandem. He could feel it in the air, a vibration beneath his skin. The ghost net had spread, crawling through every wire, every signal, every device. The cafe had only been the beginning. But David wasn't ready to surrender. His chest heaved, sweat dripping down his neck as he yanked the router from the wall. The lights on his devices sputtered, then died with a hiss. And with them, silence. The whispers in Prosper's ears faded to nothing. The glow in Amara's eyes dimmed, leaving only exhaustion. Tobi's screen froze, the corrupted code collapsing into emptiness. For a long, fragile moment, none of them moved. Then Amara let out a sob, clutching David's arm. Prosper slumped into a chair, covering his face. Tobi leaned back, staring at the lifeless laptop as if it were finally, blessedly still. Outside, dawn broke again. The sun climbed higher, flooding the town with light. The air felt clean, lighter, as if the night itself had been purged. The curse hadn't won. They won. They were alive. Together. Free. And for the first time since the cafe, peace settled over them like a fragile but certain victory.
Like this? Share it with your squad, and don't forget to subscribe for more diary tea.
Every screen is shining bright, but not everything you see is right. Likes and clicks can steal your time. Guard your heart, protect your mind. Stay away, don't fade away. Not every light will lead the way. Keep your soul, don't sell it cheap. The web remembers what we keep. Behind the post, behind the glow, there are things you may not know. Be the one who stands up tall, don't let the net consume it all. Stay away, don't fade away. Not every light will lead the way. Keep your soul, don't sell it cheap. The web remembers what we keep. Behind the post, behind the glow, there are things you may not know. Be the one who stands up tall, don't let the net